Zoos are magical places where children marvel at exotic animals, feeling safe behind barriers. But what if a mother lets her son lean just a little too far over the railing, and that illusion of safety shatters? For Maddox Durkosh, a family outing turned tragic when he fell into a wild African dog exhibit. Today, we'll explore his story and 3 other harrowing zoo-related deaths. Let's dive right into the first story. November 4th, 2012 began as a beautiful autumn day in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The crisp air carried the earthy scent of fallen leaves, and the city's vibrant fall colors made it an ideal day for an outing. Families streamed into the Pittsburgh Zoo and PPG Aquarium, a beloved destination that promised an up-close look at some of the world's most fascinating animals. Among the visitors that day were the Durkosh family, Jason, Elizabeth, and their 2-year-old son, Maddox. Maddox was a bright and curious toddler who captured hearts with his big smile and boundless energy. Despite his young age, he was already developing a strong personality, full of curiosity and a love for adventure. Maddox's fascination with animals made the zoo one of his favorite places, and this visit was a special treat for him. His parents, Jason and Elizabeth, were dedicated to nurturing their son's interests, often planning family outings that allowed Maddox to explore and learn. For Maddox, the day was filled with wonder. He marveled at the towering giraffes, laughed at the playful antics of the penguins, and eagerly pointed at the prowling lions. His small hands clutched the railing at each exhibit, his excitement contagious as he chattered away to his parents about the animals he saw. As the family made their way through the zoo, they approached the African painted dog exhibit, a popular attraction featuring one of nature's most efficient predators. With their striking coats of black, white, and tan, these animals captivated onlookers with their beauty and energy. But behind their elegant appearance lies a reputation as one of nature's most efficient predators. African painted dogs, also known as African wild dogs, are built for speed, endurance, and precision. They are exceptional hunters operating in tightly coordinated packs with an astonishing kill rate of nearly 80%, far higher than that of lions. Their powerful jaws and sharp teeth are designed to tear through flesh and bone, and their teamwork allows them to take down prey much larger than themselves. Though generally not aggressive toward humans in the wild, their instincts are primal and relentless, making them inherently dangerous if barriers are breached. These traits, honed by evolution, made them formidable inhabitants of the zoo's exhibit. The African painted dog exhibit consisted of a wooden observation deck with a waist-high railing and a netting system designed to catch debris, allowing visitors to view the animals from above. Elizabeth wanted to give Maddox the best view possible. Like many parents, she lifted her son onto the wooden railing so he could see over the barrier and watch the painted dogs move below. Maddox was thrilled, pointing at the animals and bouncing slightly in her grip. The moment was meant to be one of joy, a snapshot of a happy family day. But in an instant, everything changed. Maddox leaned forward, eager to get a closer look, and slipped from Elizabeth's grasp. Horrified, she reached out to grab him, but he was already falling. The toddler tumbled approximately 14 feet into the enclosure. While a safety net below the railing was designed to catch falling objects, it was not built to withstand the weight of a child. Maddox fell through the netting and landed on the ground inside the painted dog habitat. The response was swift and terrifying. As Maddox landed in their territory, the African painted dogs, startled by the sudden intrusion, immediately turned their attention to him. At first, they moved cautiously, circling and sniffing, their lean, powerful bodies tense with curiosity. But in mere moments, the atmosphere shifted. The pack's instincts, honed over thousands of years as one of nature's most effective predators, took over. What began as hesitation quickly turned into a coordinated attack. The dogs surrounded Maddox, their movements fluid and deliberate. Then the first one lunged. The rest followed, their sharp teeth and powerful jaws tearing into the small boy with devastating speed and precision. Witnesses later described the horrifying scene. Maddox, helpless on the ground, was bitten and dragged by the animals, their actions relentless and merciless. Desperate screams rang out from bystanders and Maddox's mother Elizabeth, who watched in sheer horror from the railing above. Zoo staff arrived quickly, deploying a fire extinguisher in a frantic effort to scare the pack away. But the dogs, driven by their instincts, ignored the noise and commotion. A police officer on site shot one of the dogs that refused to back down, but even that did little to deter the pack. The injuries Maddox suffered were catastrophic. The painted dogs bit into his head, neck, and torso, their powerful jaws inflicting deep, fatal wounds. Despite the efforts of staff and first responders, the attack unfolded too quickly for anyone to intervene in time. Within minutes, it was over. The scene was devastating. First responders and zoo staff worked together to recover Maddox, but the attack left bystanders and staff in shock. The Allegheny County Medical Examiner later confirmed that Maddox's cause of death was blood loss from multiple injuries sustained during the attack, not the fall itself. The zoo, which had operated for 116 years without a single visitor fatality, was forever changed. In the weeks and months that followed, questions arose about how such an incident could occur. Critics pointed to the design of the exhibit, arguing that the railing and netting system did not provide adequate safety measures to prevent a child from falling into the enclosure. The zoo defended its protocols, stating that signage clearly warned visitors not to lift children onto the railing. However, many felt that more robust safeguards should have been in place. The Durkosh family eventually filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Pittsburgh Zoo, citing negligence in the design and maintenance of the exhibit. In 2014, the case was settled confidentially, leaving the public to speculate about whether more could have been done to prevent the tragedy. But visitors aren't the only ones at risk when it comes to exotic animals. On the other side are the zookeepers like Rosa King, who dedicated their lives to caring for the creatures they cherished. But what happens when that bond shatters and a deadly tiger turns its instincts on its keeper? For Rosa, this terrifying scenario became a horrific reality. It was a clear spring morning on May 29, 2017, when the quiet town of Huntingdonshire, England was shaken by a tragedy that would make headlines worldwide. Hamerton Zoo Park, a modest but beloved wildlife sanctuary nestled in the English countryside, had opened its gates that day like any other. For the staff, including 33-year-old zookeeper Rosa King, it was another routine day caring for the animals they loved. But within hours, the zoo would become the site of a devastating encounter between human and predator. Rosa was known for her radiant enthusiasm and unwavering dedication to her work. From a young age, she had been captivated by animals, frequently visiting Hamerton Zoo with her family. Those early trips sparked a love for wildlife that would shape her future. As a teenager, she spent hours studying zoology and volunteering at animal sanctuaries, determined to turn her passion into a career. By the time she joined the staff at Hamerton Zoo, Rosa was already well known to the team. Her colleagues described her as a shining light of the park, a vibrant, caring individual who had an almost magical bond with the creatures she cared for. Over the next 13 years, Rosa became a cornerstone of the zoo. She wasn't just a caretaker, but an innovator, spearheading projects to improve the animals' living spaces and safety systems. One of her most significant contributions was redesigning the enclosures for large carnivores like tigers and cheetahs. She introduced a gate system that allowed zookeepers to safely clean and maintain the cages while keeping the animals securely separated in adjoining spaces. Her ingenuity earned her respect from peers, and was even adopted by other zoological parks. But as careful and meticulous as Rosa was, even the most advanced safety systems rely on human vigilance, a fact that became heartbreakingly clear that fateful day. The Malayan tiger enclosure was one of the zoo's main attractions. These sleek, powerful predators captivated visitors with their striped coats and piercing eyes. Among them was Sissip, a 200-pound male tiger whose raw strength and primal instincts belied his life in captivity. Like all big cats, Sissip was a hunter by nature, and no amount of enclosure walls could erase the predatory edge hardwired into his being. That morning, Rosa was performing her routine rounds before the zoo opened to the public. The tasks were familiar: cleaning water troughs, tidying enclosures, and wiping the glass panels so visitors would have an unobstructed view of the animals. Unbeknownst to her, one critical detail had been overlooked. The metal slide that separated Sissip from the area she was about to enter had not been properly secured. The gate, which should have locked automatically, remained slightly ajar. Sissip, curious but unhurried, had slipped back into the main enclosure unnoticed. Rosa entered the tiger's habitat armed with a bucket of soapy water, sponges, and a handheld broom. To her, this was just another day, another moment of care for the animals she adored. She bent down to scrub the glass panels, her back turned to the tiger who was now watching her from behind a low wall. At first, Sissip appeared merely curious, his body low to the ground as he observed the unfamiliar figure inside his space. But curiosity soon gave way to something deeper, an instinctive urge to hunt. The tiger crept closer, his massive paws making no sound against the ground. Rosa remained focused on her task, unaware of the danger that was now just feet away. Then, a faint movement in her peripheral vision made her blood run cold. She turned her head just enough to catch the side of the open gate, and instinctively, her feet began moving toward the exit. She knew better than anyone what that open door meant. Sensing her sudden movement, Sissip made his move. In one powerful leap, the tiger closed the distance between them and landed on Rosa's back. The force of his weight drove her to the ground, and before she could scream, Sissip's jaws closed around her neck. His teeth tore through skin and muscle, cutting off her airway and silencing her cries. The pain was excruciating, and the pressure, immense and unrelenting, was crushing. Rosa clawed at the ground, desperately trying to free herself, but Sissip held firm. He didn't shake or tear at her body. He didn't need to. His powerful jaws were perfectly placed, and he applied just enough force to keep her immobilized. With one final push of desperation, Rosa managed to shift her weight. For a moment it seemed like she might break free, but the movement only enraged the tiger. He adjusted his grip, and with a brutal shake of his head, he severed Rosa's spinal cord. Death came instantly, sparing her from further pain, though the scene that followed was no less horrifying. For the next hour, as staff and visitors unknowingly went about their day, Sissip lingered near Rosa's lifeless body. He wasn't driven by hunger. He had been fed earlier that morning, but rather by a blend of curiosity and instinct. It wasn't until a visitor peering through the glass of the enclosure noticed a pool of blood and raised the alarm that anyone realized what had happened. Zoo staff acted swiftly, ushering visitors out of the area while coaxing Sissip back into his side enclosure. Emergency services arrived quickly, but it was clear that there was nothing they could do for Rosa. Her body, unrecognizable from the ferocity of the attack, was recovered only after the scene was deemed safe. An investigation later revealed that the enclosure's gate system had functioned correctly, but human error, a failure to ensure the gate was fully latched, had allowed the tragedy to occur. Rosa's colleagues were devastated, with one admitting responsibility for the oversight that led to the open gate. Though no charges were filed, the weight of the loss was unbearable, and several staff members, including Rosa's closest colleague, resigned in the wake of the incident. But Rosa King wasn't the only zookeeper to face a devastating encounter. At just 22 years old, Alexandra Black faced a horrifying fate in a chilling moment of miscalculation. While tending to a minor error, she unknowingly set the stage for a lion, hungry and ready to strike, to escape. The outcome was unimaginable. Let's delve into this haunting story. December 30th, 2018 began like any other brisk winter day at the Conservators Center in Burlington, North Carolina. The sanctuary, home to over 80 exotic animals, was a quiet refuge for big cats like lions, tigers, and leopards, many of whom had been rescued from neglect and abuse. It was a place of education, conservation, and care, attracting visitors and animal enthusiasts alike. For Alexandra Black, a 22-year-old intern with a passion for wildlife, it was a stepping stone toward her dream career. But by midday, the peaceful environment of the sanctuary would be shattered by a tragedy that no one could have foreseen. Alexandra, a recent graduate of Indiana University Bloomington with a degree in animal behavior, had always been fascinated by the natural world. She dedicated her young life to learning about and caring for animals, spending her college years interning at wildlife sanctuaries and animal rescue centers across the country. Her time at the Conservators Center was her fourth internship, and though she had only been there for 10 days, her enthusiasm had already left an impression on the staff. Friends and colleagues described her as bright, hardworking, and deeply committed to making a difference in the world of animal care. That morning, Alexandra joined the husbandry team for a routine cleaning of one of the lion enclosures. Among the center's residents was Mathai, a 14-year-old male lion who weighed over 500 pounds. Mathai had been rescued in 2004 from appalling conditions in Ohio, where he was kept in a cramped cage and malnourished. Though Mathai had been nervous and withdrawn when he first arrived at the sanctuary, years of compassionate care had earned the trust of his handlers. Still, like all big cats, Mathai's primal instincts remained intact, hidden beneath the surface of his otherwise calm demeanor. The cleaning process was one the team had performed countless times before. As part of the routine, the lions were moved into secure holding areas separated from the sections being cleaned by a series of locked gates. On this day, however, a seemingly minor detail would set the stage for disaster. A large play ball left inside the enclosure rolled into the path of a gate. When the staff attempted to secure the lion behind the gate, the ball prevented it from closing completely. Unbeknownst to them, the latch remained unfastened. As Alexandra and her colleagues worked on cleaning the enclosure, Mathai, curious about the open gate, nudged it with his snout. The gate swung open and the massive lion stepped through, his padded paws silent against the concrete. His usual wariness was overtaken by instinct. The sight of Alexandra, just feet away, triggered something primal. The lion, who had spent years in captivity, had never lost his predatory nature. What followed would happen in seconds. Mathai lunged at Alexandra, his jaws closing around her ankle. The force of his weight pulled her to the ground as she struggled against him, kicking and thrashing in an attempt to free herself. Her colleagues sprang into action, shouting and trying to distract the lion. But Mathai's focus was unyielding. He dragged Alexandra into the outer section of the enclosure, away from the staff who could only watch in horror. Animal trainer Ashley Watts, who had been working alongside Alexandra, grabbed a hose and sprayed water at Mathai in a desperate attempt to deter him. The jet of water hit the lion squarely in the face, soaking his eyes and snout, but he didn't flinch. His grip tightened and he shifted his focus, sinking his massive canines into Alexandra's neck. The pressure crushed her windpipe, cutting off her screams. Blood pooled on the concrete floor as Mathai dragged her further into the enclosure. Despite Alexandra's size and weight being no match for the lion, she fought back with everything she had. She punched and clawed at the animal, leaving defensive wounds on her arms. The autopsy would later reveal the extent of her bravery, evidence of a fierce struggle that continued until her strength gave out. But Mathai's overwhelming power prevailed. His jaws severed Alexandra's arteries, and his claws tore into her shoulders and back. Within minutes, she succumbed to her injuries. As the horrifying scene unfolded, the center staff called for emergency services. The Caswell County Sheriff's Office responded quickly, and deputies found Mathai pacing inside the enclosure, his muzzle bloodstained. The staff's efforts to lure him into a secure holding area with raw meat failed, leaving no option but to neutralize the threat. Armed officers fired several shotgun rounds at the lion, ultimately killing him. When the scene was finally secured, staff approached Alexandra's lifeless body. The injuries she had sustained were catastrophic. Her spinal cord had been fractured and her body bore deep puncture wounds from the lion's teeth and claws. Her death was pronounced on sight. The incident prompted an immediate investigation by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration to determine how such a tragedy could have occurred. Reports revealed that the Conservator Center had passed safety inspections as recently as April 2018, with no violations noted. Previous inspections had also deemed the facility compliant with safety standards. The center staff emphasized that the attack was the result of a freak accident, a 1 in a million occurrence caused by the misplaced play ball. The Conservator Center closed temporarily following the attack, allowing staff time to grieve and authorities time to complete their investigation. Though no charges were filed against the facility or its staff, the tragedy served as a sobering reminder of the risks inherent in working with wild animals. Even those raised in captivity retain their natural instincts, and the line between tame and wild can blur in an instant. Alexandra Black's story is not the only chilling example of how unpredictable and deadly big cats can be. Ashley Plaff, a devoted zookeeper at the Denver Zoo, found herself face to face with a jaguar's untamed strength. A simple misstep allowed the animal's instincts to take over, leading to an outcome that still haunts those who were there. It was a typical winter morning on February 24, 2007 at the Denver Zoo. The air was crisp and the bustling zoo had not yet opened its gates to the public. Inside, the staff was busy preparing the exhibits for the day ahead. For 27-year-old zookeeper Ashley Plaff, this was another day doing what she loved. Ashley had been with the zoo since 2005, working closely with a variety of animals, including big cats, polar bears, and sea lions. Her dedication to wildlife and conservation had been evident long before she joined the Denver Zoo, where she quickly became a valued member of the team. But on this seemingly ordinary morning, an oversight in the safety protocols would set in motion a chain of events that no one could have foreseen. Ashley's passion for animals began early in her life, leading her to pursue a degree in biology at New Mexico State University. After graduating in 2002, she gained experience working at Colorado's Ocean Journey in Denver, an aquarium that also housed exotic animals such as Sumatran tigers and sea otters. By the time she joined the Denver Zoo, she was an experienced and capable zookeeper with a bright future ahead. That morning, Ashley was tasked with duties in the feline exhibit area. Among the zoo's impressive collection of big cats was Jorge, a 6-year-old male jaguar who weighed approximately 140 pounds. Jorge had been born at the Santa Cruz Municipal Zoo of South American Fauna in Bolivia and was transferred to the Denver Zoo in 2005. Though raised in captivity, he retained the instincts of a wild predator. Jaguars, known for their immense strength and agility, possess one of the strongest bite forces in the animal kingdom. Ashley entered the feline building early that morning to begin her routine. The exact sequence of events remains unclear, but what is known is that established safety protocols were not followed. At some point, the door separating Ashley from Jorge's enclosure was opened while the jaguar was still inside. This lapse would become the setup for a tragedy. As Ashley went about her tasks, Jorge began to move. His shining, muscular body glided silently through the enclosure as he approached the open door. Jaguars are solitary hunters in the wild, known for their ability to stalk prey with unmatched stealth. Even in captivity, Jorge's instincts were sharp. He nudged the door open further with his powerful muzzle, stepping into the corridor where Ashley was working. Ashley turned at the sound of the metal hinges creaking. She froze as she locked eyes with Jorge, now just feet away. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. There was nothing between her and the predator. No bars, no fencing, no barriers of any kind. Though born in captivity, Jorge's primal instincts were intact. He was no longer a calm animal behind a cage, but a predator with a target in his sights. Ashley paused, moving slowly to avoid sudden movements that could trigger an attack. She reached for her radio to call for help, but before she could act, Jorge lunged. In one powerful leap, the jaguar closed the distance, his massive paws landing on Ashley with crushing force. She fell to the concrete floor, pinned beneath the weight of the 140-pound cat. His jaws clamped down on the back of her neck with devastating precision, severing her vertebrae and cutting off any chance to scream for help. The attack was quick and brutal. Jorge grappled with Ashley, his claws tearing into her shoulders and back as he maintained his grip on her neck. Despite the immense pain and overwhelming odds, Ashley fought back with all her strength. She clawed and punched at the jaguar, leaving defensive wounds on her arms and hands. Her colleagues would later recall that she had undergone extensive training in handling animals like Jorge, but nothing could have prepared her for this moment. A witness, noticing the commotion, saw Ashley's legs protruding from beneath the jaguar and immediately raised the alarm. The zoo's emergency response team, trained to handle dangerous animal situations, was on the scene within minutes. 4 staff members arrived with fire extinguishers and tranquilizer equipment, prepared to do whatever it took to save their colleague. The team sprayed a fire extinguisher at Jorge, startling him momentarily and causing him to retreat. But as they rushed to tend to Ashley, the jaguar returned, his instincts driving him to defend his perceived territory. With no other option, the staff made the heartbreaking decision to use lethal force. Jorge was shot, and the jaguar let out a piercing cry before collapsing in another section of the enclosure. Despite their efforts, Ashley died from her injuries shortly afterward. The trauma to her neck and internal injuries had been too severe. The Denver Zoo closed immediately following the incident, and the feline exhibit remained off limits as authorities began an investigation to assess the zoo's safety protocols and determine the circumstances that led to the tragedy. Initial findings indicated that the enclosure's doors and locks were functioning correctly, and that no mechanical failures had occurred. Instead, the incident was attributed to human error. Ashley had failed to ensure that Jorge was securely locked away before entering the corridor. In the aftermath, the Denver Zoo reviewed and strengthened its safety measures to prevent similar incidents in the future. The tragedy showed the critical importance of vigilance and adherence to established procedures, even in the most routine tasks. Thank you for watching this video. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how secure we think we are, wild animals retain their instincts and unpredictability, even in the most controlled settings. If these stories had you on edge, you won't want to miss what happened to 8-year-old Anya during what should have been a joyous visit to the Velikan Zoo. Her encounter with a bear shocked everyone. Click now to watch her story, and we'll see you there.